Most people will never see the full power of their potential, not because they lack intelligence, talent, or opportunity, but because they quit too soon. They stop digging when they're inches from gold. They give up on their dream right before the universe tests if they're truly worthy of it. They mistake slow progress for failure and comfort for peace. But the truth is, the moment you feel like giving up is the exact moment you're being shaped into who you must become to deserve what you asked for. The 97%, they never pass that test. They quit not because they're weak, but because they never learned the real rules of this game, the laws that govern success, wealth, and achievement. And the first law is this: you don't get to choose when your reward appears, only how long you'll keep working before it does. Thomas Edison failed 10,000 times before the light bulb worked. 10,000 failures, each one a lesson disguised as defeat. Most men would have quit after 10 attempts. But Edison understood something deeper. Every failure carried him closer to the truth. He didn't fail 10,000 times. He discovered 10,000 ways that didn't work. And that's how the 3% think. They see obstacles not as signs to stop, but as proof that they're getting closer. The path to success is hidden behind layers of frustration, doubt, exhaustion, and fear. The 97% see those layers and turn back. The 3% keep walking through the storm because they've already made peace with the pain. They know, if it were easy, everyone would already have it. The world has never rewarded effort alone. It rewards endurance, persistence, and faith when logic says to quit. Carnegie didn't build steel empires because he knew every answer. He built them because he refused to stop asking better questions. Henry Ford didn't revolutionize industry because he was the smartest man alive. He simply wouldn't surrender his vision when everyone told him it was impossible. That's the difference. The 97% need proof before they believe. The 3% believe before there's proof. And that belief, that invisible inner fire, is what turns a dream into a destiny. So if you feel like you've been fighting for something and it still hasn't shown up, good. That means you're still in the fire. You're still being refined. You're still becoming. Because every dream demands a price, and the first down payment is patience. Most people confuse movement with progress. They work hard for a week, a month, maybe even a year. And when life doesn't hand them instant results, they call it failure. But success is never a straight line. It's a spiral. You revisit lessons. You repeat pain. You relive mistakes until you learn what they came to teach you. The 97% run in circles, chasing comfort and validation. The 3% embrace the grind, understanding that discipline outlasts motivation every single time. Motivation is fire. It burns bright, but it burns fast. Discipline is the furnace that keeps you warm long after the sparks are gone. Napoleon Hill wrote that every adversity carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. But here's the catch. The seed doesn't grow unless you stay long enough to water it. The seed of success is buried in days that look empty. It's in the mornings when no one is watching, the nights when you want to sleep but stay up studying, the workouts when your body screams, enough. Those are the invisible hours that forge greatness. Edison had them. Carnegie had them. Disney had them. And every legend you admire lived through years of being misunderstood, doubted, and unseen. But they didn't stop because their faith wasn't based on the applause of others. It was built on the conviction of purpose. You see, the 97% work until it gets hard. The 3% work because it's hard. There's a sacred truth hidden inside that pain. The struggle is not in your way, it is your way. Without resistance, you would never grow. Without challenge, you'd never unlock your potential. The tension between who you are and who you could become is what pulls your greatness out of hiding. So when life pushes you, don't push back. Lean in. Don't complain. Don't collapse. Don't curse the difficulty. It's the forge that shapes the steel inside your soul. Because the 3% know pain is temporary, but quitting is permanent. The day you stop, the dream dies with you. But if you endure, if you persist through the storm, the reward that awaits isn't just success, It's transformation. And that transformation is worth everything. The moment you decide you're not going to quit, everything changes. Not outside of you, inside of you. That single decision rearranges your destiny, shifts the energy around you, and commands the universe to respond. Most people wait for signs. They wait for something to prove that their effort is working. But the ones who rise to greatness understand. The sign you're waiting for is the struggle you're already in. The resistance itself is confirmation that you're on the right path. When you start chasing something that truly matters, the world doesn't roll out a red carpet. It throws tests in your way, tests of faith, patience, and endurance. It wants to see how badly you really want it. When Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich, he didn't write it as theory. He wrote it after studying men who turned invisible dreams into empires. They all shared one trait: unbreakable persistence. They were laughed at, doubted, betrayed, and overlooked. Yet they moved forward as if success were inevitable. That's what separates the doers from the dreamers. Dreamers stop when they feel fear. Doers move through it. Fear is a compass, not a cage. It points directly toward the area of your greatest growth. So if you're scared, uncertain, uncomfortable, that's where you need to go next. Because everything you want is hidden behind everything you're afraid to face. The 97% spend their lives avoiding pain. The 3% learn to dance with it. They know that comfort is a slow death, a silent killer that convinces you you're fine when your potential is rotting inside you. If you could see what's waiting for you on the other side of your current struggle, you'd never even think about quitting. But that's the secret. You're not supposed to see it yet. You're supposed to believe in it. Belief is the currency of success. You don't buy your future with excuses. You buy it with conviction. When Walt Disney was fired from his newspaper job for lacking imagination, he didn't quit. When Henry Ford went bankrupt 5 times before building the Model T, he didn't quit. When Abraham Lincoln lost 8 elections before becoming president, he didn't quit. Because the dreamers of history never needed validation. They needed vision. And vision doesn't come from the eyes, it comes from the soul. So if you can see it in your mind, even when the world tells you it's impossible, you already own it. You just haven't caught up to it yet. But the price of catching up is paid daily in discipline, in focus, in patience, in faith. That's the part the 97% don't want to hear. They want the crown without the climb, the glory without the grind, the light without the heat. But that's not how this universe works. It rewards those who move with certainty when everything looks uncertain. It opens doors for the ones who keep knocking long after the echo fades. When you reach that breaking point, when you're tired, frustrated, and feel like nothing's working, that is your initiation. That's the gate every legend walks through. And the guard at that gate only has one question. You keep going. The difference between the 97% and the 3% is not intelligence, not opportunity, not luck. It's endurance. It's the ability to keep showing up when there's no applause, no evidence, no certainty. Discipline is doing what must be done long after the feeling is gone. The 97% chase motivation, the 3% chase mastery. Motivation fades, but mastery becomes part of who you are. Every time you choose effort over excuse, you are rewiring your brain for greatness. You are teaching yourself to follow through. You are becoming unstoppable. When Hill spoke of definiteness of purpose, he meant clarity so strong that doubt loses its power. Because when you know where you're going, you stop negotiating with weakness. You stop needing permission. You stop second-guessing yourself. The most dangerous man alive is the one who has made up his mind. The world can't distract him, critics can't shake him, and failure can't stop him. Look at every man or woman who's changed history. They weren't superhuman. They were certain. Certainty is what turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results. When your mind decides, your body follows. When your vision locks in, the universe rearranges. But you must be clear. What do you want? What are you willing to sacrifice for it? How long are you willing to wait before it manifests? The 97% never answer those questions honestly because honest answers require courage. They say they want success, but they don't want to give up their comfort. They say they want freedom, but they cling to their excuses. They say they want to change, but they fear the death of who they used to be. And that's the paradox. You cannot become something new while protecting the version of yourself that's holding you back. You must let go. Let go of the story that says, I can't. Let go of the identity built on limitation. Let go of the need to see immediate results. Because what you plant today doesn't bloom tomorrow. But if you stop watering, it never blooms at all. You are not waiting for results. Results are waiting for you to become the kind of person who can handle them. And when you finally align your beliefs, your actions, and your faith, you'll realize success was never something you had to chase. It was something you had to grow into. The world is designed to test your resilience before it rewards your vision. Every challenge you face is not a punishment. It's preparation. Every delay, every detour, every heartbreak, every rejection, they're not there to stop you, but to shape you. When you pray for strength, life doesn't hand you easy days. It sends storms. When you ask for courage, life doesn't give you comfort. It gives you fear to conquer. When you ask for success, it doesn't come with applause. It comes with silence. Because silence is where your faith is forged. It's in the seasons where nothing seems to work, that everything is working within you. That's where the 97% give up. They confuse silence with failure. They mistake not yet for never. But the 3% know the truth. Delay is not denial. They understand that life's timing is never off. It's aligning. When Napoleon Hill said, patience, persistence, and perspiration make an unbeatable combination for success, he wasn't describing theory, he was describing spiritual law. The law that says your results will always arrive after you've proven you can be trusted with them. And that proof doesn't come in comfort. It comes in days when everything inside you screams to quit, yet you take one more step. It comes in moments when no one believes, yet you keep building. It comes in nights when you're exhausted, but your purpose whispers, keep going. That's where transformation happens. That's where the 97% disappear and the 3% are born. You can't become unstoppable without first being tested by everything that could stop you. You can't call yourself resilient if you've never been broken. You can't preach faith until you've walked through darkness and still believed in light. It's in those moments, the raw, unfiltered, lonely moments, that you meet your real self, and that self is far stronger than the one who started. Pain will introduce you to your potential. Discipline will introduce you to your destiny. But quitting? Quitting introduces you to regret, and that is the heaviest chain you will ever carry. Regret is what haunts the 97%. It whispers to them in the quiet of their later years, what if you didn't stop? What if you had stayed the course a little longer? What if you had trusted your gut instead of listening to fear? What if you had kept building when no one clapped? You'll never know how close you were, and that's what breaks people. They walk away just before the miracle. Success often arrives dressed as struggle. The universe disguises your blessing in the very thing you hate to do, because it wants to see if you truly want it. That's the hidden truth. That's why most people quit. They fail to recognize that the test is the gate. Only those who walk through earn the right to lead. Only those who endure the invisible battles get to live visible victories. Every empire is built in silence before it's seen in glory. The skyscrapers of your success rise first in the unseen architecture of your mind. Before there's a fortune, there's faith. Before there's applause, there's agony. Before there's recognition, there's rejection. And yet, every single one of those is a brick in your foundation. Carnegie had years when investors mocked him. Edison had years when people laughed at his experiments. Ford had years when his factories failed and his ideas seemed ridiculous. But history doesn't remember those years. It remembers the result of those years. Because no one celebrates you in the building phase. They celebrate when it's finished. But the ones who build don't do it for the celebration. They do it for the creation. They fall in love with the process, not the praise. That's what keeps the 3% alive when the world turns cold. They find fuel in faith, not in followers. They find strength in silence, not in validation. If you can learn to be faithful in the unseen, you'll be unstoppable in the visible. If you can work when nobody's watching, you'll shine when everybody is. The 97% spend their energy waiting for motivation. The 3% create it through movement. Action generates belief. Belief fuels more action. It's a cycle, and it begins the moment you take the first step, even when you're afraid. The secret isn't to wait until you feel ready. It's to start now and let readiness catch up. The moment you start, something awakens inside you, a force that says, this is who I was meant to be. And once you've felt that power, the power of self-belief, of growth, of progress, you can never go back to the old you. Because once you've tasted purpose, comfort becomes poison. That's why the few never quit. They know the cost of staying average is far greater than the pain of becoming great. They know that success isn't found in a moment of luck. It's forged in thousands of moments of decision. So the next time you want to give up, remember this. The 97% quit because they think success is a destination. The 3% know it's a direction. Keep moving, keep evolving, keep believing. Because one day when the results finally appear, when the world calls you lucky, when the success you once imagined is staring back at you, you'll smile. Not because it came true, but because you didn't quit before it did. There comes a point in every journey when everything inside you starts to question whether it's worth it. When your mind whispers, maybe I'm not meant for this. When your heart feels heavy, your faith runs thin, and your dreams start to look like distant stars. That's when most people stop. They look at the mountain ahead and convince themselves they've climbed enough. They tell stories about timing, about luck, about fate. But deep down, they know the truth. They didn't run out of potential. They ran out of belief. The difference between those who make history and those who disappear into it is not destiny. It's endurance. Every life-changing breakthrough has a breaking point before it. Every success story begins with a chapter of doubt, and every winner was once a warrior fighting the same voice that tells you to quit. But the 3%, they don't listen to that voice. They've learned the language of pain. They've learned that struggle doesn't mean stop, it means step forward. Because the moment you feel like breaking is the moment you're about to be rebuilt. That's the hidden truth most people never see. Your suffering has purpose. Your setbacks have meaning. Your waiting has worth. Everything you're going through is carving you into the kind of person who won't collapse when the weight of success finally lands on your shoulders. You can't receive more if you haven't become more. So if life feels heavy, if you're tired, if the progress feels invisible, remember, diamonds are made under pressure, not praise. You are being formed in silence for a victory that will speak for itself. There is no wasted pain. There are no meaningless days. Every sacrifice, every lonely night, every tear, every rejection, it's all adding up to something extraordinary. You just have to stay long enough to see it. Because the 97% leave before the equation balances. They walk out of the storm before the rainbow appears. They give up when the soil is about to crack open. But those who hold on, who trust the process even when it's brutal, they cross an invisible threshold where everything changes. Suddenly, the weight that used to break you becomes your armor. The discipline that used to exhaust you becomes your strength. The dream that once scared you becomes your reality. That's when you realize success was never about the goal. It was about who you became on the way there. Every generation produces two kinds of people, those who watch history and those who make it. The watchers talk, the makers act. The watchers criticize, the makers build. The watchers stop when it gets hard. The makers rise when it gets impossible. So when you stand at the edge of your breaking point, remember, that's where greatness begins. Because beyond that line, there are no crowds, no noise, no comfort, just clarity. Clarity about who you are and what you're willing to fight for. And once you've crossed that line, you become untouchable. Not because life stops testing you, but because you stop flinching. You stop expecting ease, and you start respecting endurance. That's when you start to own your life. Every scar, every failure, every mistake. Because you understand that each one was necessary. Each one was a teacher. Each one was proof that you refused to quit. Napoleon Hill once said, "Victory is always possible for the person who refuses to stop fighting." That's the truth that built empires. That's the truth that carried every visionary through their darkest nights. So when you wake up tomorrow and that voice tries to convince you it's not worth it, smile. Because now you know that voice isn't your enemy. It's your invitation, your test. It's asking one question. Do you still believe? If you can answer yes, not just once, but every single day, you will rise into the rare air where only the relentless live. The world won't always see your work. The world won't always understand your drive. But the world will feel your results when they finally arrive. Because when you refuse to quit, you become a living example of what faith looks like in human form. You become the proof that persistence still matters, that vision still wins, that the fire inside you is stronger than the storm around you. And one day, when the results appear, when the dream becomes real, when the life you once imagined stands before you, you'll know it was never luck. It was loyalty. Loyalty to your vision, loyalty to your discipline, loyalty to your purpose. That's why 97% will quit before they see results. But not you, because now you know what they don't. The finish line doesn't appear to the fastest, it appears to the longest lasting. Stay the course, endure the silence, trust the unseen, because when you refuse to quit, the universe has no choice but to surrender to your persistence, and that is how the 3% are born.